Hey everyone, and welcome back to another statue unboxing and assembly. Today I have a statue of Usopp. This is done by Studios U and Destiny. We have a pretty large base. It's a large stag beetle with some cloud effects coming out the back and some water coming out the front. Pretty soon we'll have a whole bunch of other plants and creatures going on there as well. First part we'll be looking at is the face and sort of main horn of the stag beetle. It's got the funny little eyes and the teeth coming down, and it's got a large key that'll just slot onto the front. Here you can see how it just slots right on in there. Coming up next is the large wolf in the background. It's got that funny red nose and just a massive key that'll slot onto the back there. Some really cool green sort of leaf-based textures. It just slots in the back and just sits over there on the back of the beetle. Up next is the tail. It shares that similar sort of leaf texture pattern with a large key with a metal rod, and it'll just slot in right at the base of the wolf. I had to fight with this a little bit to get the angle just right, but eventually it just slides right on in. Coming up next is a couple of the pieces of the horn of the beetle. The first one, which will go on the left, is a bit of a break that has some bandages on it. And then the one on the right is the complete horn. There's a couple of keys right there that'll fit right into those notches with some magnets. Looking up close, you'll see how they just sit right in there and they snap in with those magnets. Here we have a large set of vines or stalks. These will sit in the back next to the wolf and will act as a support for another effect piece later on. Got three little attachment points, the main one in the slot in the back, and a couple little notches where the vines will sit on there. Then after that we have this large sort of angry looking flower. It's got a pretty cool mouth, a large key with a magnet on the back, and some really nice pink paint. The flower just rests in the notch in the back of the stag beetle, and after that we'll have some smaller flowers to fit in those holes that you see on the inside. These little flowers were a little trickier. You kind of had to angle them just right to get them in there, and then the next two each will take up one of those holes in the bottom. Up next is this nice purple flower that'll go on the back right of the statue. Unfortunately, a couple petals of mine did break off. I did glue them on there. Glue wasn't totally set when I finished this, so it's a bit of a lean to it. After that is this large angry flower. Part of the saliva teeth looking things on the top did pop off. I'll glue that later, but for the sake of the video you won't even notice. Both the flowers are sort of magnetized into the keyholes in the back and just rest on there pretty good. Next up we have Usopp himself. He's in a pretty cool action pose. He's got some really well defined muscles. If you notice up on his hand there's a bit of a peg coming out. That'll be used later on. He's got some really nice texture on his pants, and you can see that the straps and everything are coming up nice. They did a really great job with the body. Here we have one of two different head sculpts. We got one with his mouth open. There's a peg coming out the back for an additional hair piece. And the other head sculpt is him with sort of his teeth clenched. Both look great. Here we have the first portrait. And the second one, which is probably the one I'll be using. And real quick, you can see where the hair attaches to the back of his head. He's got an additional little side bag where he keeps all his bombs and seeds. There's a little key that notches into his shoulder. Next up is his slingshot. This thing is pretty cool. It's got some actual strings to stimulate as if he's pulling it back with the little pouch there. The handle of the slingshot just sort of rests in his hand, and then the pouch has a little hole that'll attach to that peg that's coming out of the palm of his hand. Coming up after that, we have another couple of these little angry flowers. There's a nice pink one with some saliva coming out of its mouth. And then we have a larger blue one where you sort of have those saliva teeth clenched. The two of them just sit at the end of the top of that vine stalk. The pink one did give me a little trouble. You just kind of twist it around until it finds its place. Then the blue one will slide right on. Then we have the tiny little fish guy. Unfortunately, the fin of mine on one side did break off, but it's not really noticeable, and it's so tiny that it's a bit of a pain to glue, so I'm not going to do that for the sake of the video. Then we have these two sort of action shot pieces that are coming off the sides. The fish just keys right into the bottom, his tail just sits in the water. He does fall off in a second, but I do fix it. There's a key on one side of the green flower where the green effect piece will sit in, and the one on the left hand side actually has a little hole up on the green part of the tail. And there you have it, U Studios and Destiny Studios Usopp. This thing is super bright, super colorful, a ton of fun to look at, and it has a nice dynamic flow to it. I love all the different effects like the flowers and the big wolf and him shooting out of his slingshot. Hopefully they do more. Thanks for watching.